People in stock photos, what's the weirdest way you've seen your photos being used? When I was a kid, my mom took me for a photo shoot. Then a month later I was on a pamphlet that said millions of children don't have homes, adopt one today. My cousin took a photo of me wrestling my sister at a family reunion a few years back, and it somehow wound up on an online forum about domestic abuse. I had a few of my friends messaging me who were obviously very confused, lol. Not me, but my best friend. He did a photo shoot in some construction worker garb and a hard hat. We live in North Carolina, USA. I'm on a business trip in Chicago, and I stop by a Walmart for some supplies. I'm in the men's work clothes aisle, and there's my buddy prominently on the wrapping of 50-ish packages of work shirts. It was a weird wait, where am I moment. I knew he did some modeling, but not specifics. I sent him a pic. He had no idea it had been used. The guy's in every Walmart in the country and had no idea. I'm on the opposite end. I'm a graphic designer, so I spend a lot of time on stock photo sites, and I have so many questions. Some of the photos I've seen, there's no possible context that would make sense for them to be used anywhere. Commercial photographer here. I looked into doing stock at one point, and the advice that was given was to shoot anything and everything as long as it's high res and good quality. Somebody out there is likely to use it. That's my guess as to why there's so many weird stock photos out there. It's just a numbers game for some photographers. How do you get into stock photography? Does someone hire you? Or do you just upload images to a website that shares them and passes on a portion of the profits? When do people get hired for specific stock photography? So many questions. My family did a stock photo shoot when our kids were young, like 1 and 3. A picture they took on our porch ended up in the opening credits for The Americans. My ex used to work with a local photographer who is apparently pretty well known. He took a photo of me and my family, and now it's a permanent piece at the New Mexico Museum of Art in Santa Fe. So strange. I wonder how many people's houses I'm in. My friend was in a stock photo where he held up a baby picture, and it got used for an anti-circumcision ad campaign. Was pretty shocked when I saw his face on the side of a bus. In the military, some cameraman tagged along on a mission. Like 4 years later, I saw footage of me in a gun turret on the news. I guess news broadcasters oftentimes just play generic combat footage and photos that look Middle Eastern-y enough, and rightly assume nobody will notice that the shots were taken months or years before the actual incident they are talking about. This is common practice for news. It's called B-roll, and it's generic footage of a topic that will act as visual filler as the anchors talk over it. It saves time and money. So, if you're doing a story about education funding, you pull out the footage of students walking out of the high school that was shot for a story on graduation rate and slap it under the story. That way you don't have to pay someone to go shoot essentially the same shot for every story about the same topic. I used to get this Japanese news broadcast on TV early morning in middle school. I love that they made animations of the scenario instead of using stock footage. All I really remember though is a cartoon they made of a guy getting chased up a tree by a bear. I'm in an ad campaign in my home state in Australia for the government. I'm the face of don't buy alcohol for underage people. It's just me looking like a dad who's thinking of buying a drink, obviously for a teenager somewhere. Ironically, I don't actually have my own kids. I get emails from people I haven't heard from in years saying I saw you on the wall of the bottle shop, which is kinda funny. I'm always impressed at the Australian ability to shorten just about any word or name with IEY, Tassie, Tradie, Posty, Fiery, Blowy, Oro, Arvo, Servo, Dero, Rego, Seppo, and I always thought Botolo was the most awkward sounding. I have some friends that found one of their wedding pictures from Facebook somehow printed on a pillow in a market in a Middle Eastern country. Like, they just randomly happened upon their wedding photo in a random street market. They are from the US. Nobody else needs to buy it, really. It was set up just for them. The bartender who checked their IDs earlier quickly runs to the pillow maker. The pillow maker searches them on Facebook and prints their picture on a pillow. The pillow maker gives it to the seller, who has a stand-in market located conveniently outside of the bar. Profit. Similar thing happened to my trainer a couple years ago. He was running a marathon for an AIDS benefit. One of the things people don't realize is your participation often includes a waiver for all photos taken at the event. His finish line photo becomes the face of overcoming AIDS adversity in a big ad campaign. The problem is he trains a bunch of boxing and MMA guys. You cannot participate in those sports if you have AIDS and other blood transmitted diseases. So it created a big issue for him with some of his pro clients. My girlfriend and I were backpacking across Japan and this group of young guys ran up to us and begged us to be in their friend's wedding video. We had to run out of the station up to the camera and congratulate the couple on their wedding in terrible imitation Japanese and then say let's go or something like that. It was weird but pretty fun. Would have loved to have seen the video. My husband and I did stock photos when I was pregnant with our first. I ended up seeing myself later on the side of a bus as well as in a pamphlet for young moms, flattering, at my doctor's office. The more interesting part, though, is that my husband took part in another family shoot, various poses cooking in the kitchen etc. Years later I was looking up a colleague on Facebook and her cover photo was her and my husband chopping vegetables in a stock photo. I had my photo taken in high school studying with my friend at the time. Almost 5 years later, my brother said I was in the county brochure for library services. The picture was most likely chosen cause of the diversity, Asian girl and a black girl. Oh, this reminded me of my college in the UK. They used a photo of 2 non-white students taken by an in-house photographer on the front page of their International Students Office brochure. The issue is that both students in that photo were British, born and raised. They were not happy. One of my daughters has a few stock photos out there. It's always odd seeing her face unexpectedly. It doesn't happen super regularly, but it makes me double take when it happens. A friend of ours was in a commercial for herpes medication a couple of years after we graduated college, and we recognized him randomly while watching a show with my mother-in-law. We were like, hey, it's our friend. From school. We went to a school with strong religious ties and my mother-in-law is very religious. Right after we said this, my mother-in-law was appalled and said, wait, he has herpes. When I was a senior in high school, I was chosen to do a stock photo shoot for a big health company. They didn't tell me what they were going to use my pictures for. I was just excited to get free clothes and a tiny bit of cash. The way I found out how they used my photo was when I went to the gynecologist about a year later and saw my picture on the wall. I was the face of teenage pregnancy counseling. Edit. I was definitely not pregnant. I actually think I was still a virgin when the photo shoot happened. You know how when you buy an electronic device with batteries, it usually includes super off-brand batteries? Dildo manufacturers use even batteries even more off-brand than that. I imagine wrapping them is either to make it look less cheap, it doesn't work, or to hide the brand name for other reasons. There isn't a special section of sex shops that sell special batteries for vibrators though. There is a special section for vibrators that require a shoulder strap, kickstand, and pull start. However, the university took a bunch of professional photos of me and some friends for their billboards and campaigns. I was pretty surprised to open a handbook and find out I was the face of their fine arts program. Especially pottery. I was a neuroscience major. This happened to my mom. She was put on her school's master degree brochure. She went back to school for it when I was about 13 and she had a short hair phase because it was easy maintenance. There is a picture of her with bags under eyes with short boy hair on a brochure somewhere. Sort of funny. As someone who does graphic design at a university, I can confirm that this happens all the time. Even if we have caption info, rare, we usually choose photos for visual effect, not narrative accuracy. New university gym brochure. I'm a skinny fit guy, and it was a shot behind me while I was looking out the window doing curls with 30 pounds. I ended up looking like a jacked shadow. It was on the front page of the university website at some point. Really wired and kinda cool. Showed it to some friends. Literally no one believed it was me. This happened to me, sort of. A friend of mine in college was a photographer and took pictures of our spring fling event. There was a mechanical bull involved, and long story short, there's a photo of me on it in their 2014 to 2015 brochure. Luckily it wasn't printed until after I left that school. My whole family modeled back in the 80s. Somehow my dad ended up in a brochure for some born again church that said he was a sinner and adulterer until he found Jesus. Edit, this thing blew up. Thanks for my first gold kind stranger. I found a photo from my private FB account on a news article then a stock image site. It was a helicopter I worked on out in the snow in Minnesota. They said it was Afghanistan in the article. I disputed the photo but it's still there. I no longer post photos on FB because of this. Edit. I just did a Google machine search for it and it popped up as the second picture. It's on multiple sites. Even a .gov and the money isn't what bothers me. My FB profile is pretty locked down and the photo is on multiple sites with a made up story. At my former company a middle-aged black woman agreed to take a photo looking melancholy and ended up on the section of the employee arbitration agreement of the employee handbook. So you just see a title with employee disputes and it's her looking somewhat pissed. We need to hear from that hipster who complained that a stock photo of him was used in an article about how all hipsters end up looking the same. Turned out the photo wasn't actually of him, just another hipster who looked exactly the same. Edit, got the story confused. It was actually a guy who complained about a photo of his being used, but it turned out to be a stock photo of another guy dressed as a hipster. To make it worse, the original guy didn't self-identify as a hipster. Before the 2016 election, my apartment was getting tons of political mailers and pamphlets in the mail daily on who what to vote for. I was going through the mail one day and see what looks like my roommate on a flyer that supported increasing taxes in order to fund homeless shelters. I was so confused because it was definitely her, same moles. She was in an army uniform, never served in the military, and she definitely wasn't homeless. Turns out she had taken some stock photos for a photographer in exchange for free headshots. We still have the mailer up on our fridge. Not really for a stock photo, but I was soldering some copper pipe when a photographer asked if I could stop for a minute and pose for a picture for some promotional pictures. They were for a collage of the skills taught in the program I was in. They didn't want a picture of me soldering anything though. No, they wanted me to pretend I was soldering. I told them, you know, I could actually solder something for you. They said no because it wouldn't look real enough, whatever that means. My father-in-law was an airplane mechanic. A company he worked for wanted a photographer to take photos of him while he was working for some promotional material. As he's using a wrench, the photographer asked him to grab a bigger wrench and continue working. My Phil tried to explain that's not how it works and it's going to be very obvious that he's just holding a wrench and not working on anything. Nope, photographer wants the big wrench. I wish we had a copy of the photo just so the memory of idiot using too big of a wrench lives on. Writing for a friend. He does voiceover work, not stock photography. His cousin was in a Home Depot and heard his voice. He was very confused looking for my friend in a set of aisles. He could hear the voice, but could not find his cousin. Calling out his name. The voice would come and then stop before he found him. Eventually realized that the voice was coming out of a kiosk. Photographer took a picture on the first day of college with me and my two friends. They quit within the first month. I spiraled in a depression for the rest of the year and transferred out because I got a job dependent on being in school 2 years later as a concussion was making it difficult for me to stay in school. The picture was used in recruiting material at the college. One guy's mother even worked for the college and obviously wasn't on the committee making those decisions. Edit, I was in the picture. While peeing at a bar I found myself looking at myself. I was used in a campaign about alcohol abuse. The particular pictures they used were drunk me about to punch my girlfriend, and drunk me pushing my friend while I was trying to get into my car to drive. That night I ended up being rather popular with the bar patrons and had to reenact the photos with various strangers,